Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Also, MinaLima sind Miraphora Mina und Eduardo Lima, zusammen MinaLima. Und die beiden sind, wie gesagt, mit dem Hogwarts Express aus London gekommen. Deswegen sprechen sie hauptsächlich Englisch. Wir werden also diese Veranstaltung heute auf Englisch machen. Wenn ihr etwas nicht versteht, dann sagt doch bitte Bescheid. Dann kann ich das nämlich nochmal kurz zusammenfassen, was die beiden gesagt haben auf Deutsch. Aber ich denke, bei so vielen Harry-Potter-Fans werden die allermeisten bestes Oxford-Englisch beherrschen und verstehen. Okay, so, MinaLima, welcome to Frankfurt. Welcome to the book fair. So happy you could make it. It's been 20 years you've been working in the wizard world, working with Harry Potter, and it's probably, you know, so many people, when they think about the Marauder map, about the first letter that Harry receives when he's invited to Hogwarts, what they see is what you created. How was your first contact with this strange wizard boy?
You can start, Mira, because you were there from day one. No?
His start is that's me. His start is more romantic than mine, actually. But I was working with the production designer, the amazing Stuart Craig, who is responsible for all the sets. I was working for him on other films, and really this came along as the next project. And believe it or not, you won't believe it because you're all here because you have a long legacy and relationship with Harry Potter, but we did not know who Harry Potter was or what this phenomenon would become. So I started working for him for a 6-month term, which was agreed. Maybe he said, let's see how it goes, 6 months. And 23 years later, I'm here. And a year later, a parrot sent one of those letters to Eduardo in Brazil.
Now, yes, I moved to the UK in 2001, and Mira was the first person I met to kind of find out about how to work in the film industry in the UK. And she said, "Oh, come to Leeds and bring your portfolio, and let's see what's happened." And when I met this amazing person here, we kind of connected straight away. And I started working as a work experience for a couple of weeks, not get paid for anything. And I made myself, and I made myself very paid. and from that day, we have been working together ever since.
It's a strange journey, this whole Harry Potter universe has done, because it started out as a book. Then you helped making the films. For the films, you made a lot of books. A lot of fake books that appeared in the film, and now you're making books. Again.
In the real world.
In the real world. And it's so interesting how this goes and comes around. It's almost magic. Well, how did you, why did you go back into the world of paper and book and things you can touch and things you can read from the glamorous Hollywood film world?
Before we answer that question, I think we need to declare that we are absolutely crazy about books. And we were even worried when books were kind of dying, no? And we were like, oh God, what's going to happen? All digital. But we are, and I used to do one thing, that I used to go to charity shops and to find old books and rescue the books. And loads of the books that we bought as a reference books is the books that you see on Harry Potter now, the films. And but I remember the first book we've done for the Muggle world, because when we do books for the Wizarding world, is all a little bit fake. We only design maybe 5 to 10 pages, and we repeat it throughout the book because you don't need to design the entire book. But in the real world was it different, and the first book was the film wizardry, Harry Potter film wizardry, and I think it took us a long time because we were not prepared. We were treating that book as a prop, But that's why that book was such a success, I think, because of that, the way we treated the book. But yes, now being invited to create the world of Harry Potter for the books, it's been fantastic.
It's kind of a full circle.
Exactly, yeah.
And to answer your question about the glamour of film, well, first of all, let's just say there is no glamour on that side. But actually what there is the tangible and the tactile, the thing that you mentioned about books. And for us, creating props for the stories is exactly that. It's like, how can we bring from the page to life through the physical? And so our relationship with making and materials and different materials, experimenting, exploring, is always central to our work, even though we are now much more proficient in digital use of Photoshop and Illustrator and so on. It's everything centered around making and what your hands can do and how you can then translate that. So a lot of the images you see will start off as drawings or in making maquettes, or the pop-ups in the books that you see, it's all about making. So that's very central to how we think always. Even typography is for us an image rather than something that the computer would generate as a font. So, a long answer to your question. By the way, is it okay speaking English? And are we going too fast? Or?
Yeah. Is it okay?
Thank you. We weren't expecting an applause for speaking English.
That picture there is quite nice to illustrate that the way we do books for the film, there's a long process because we have to make the design, the concept, go to the director, check with him if he's happy to know that book is telling the right moment of that moment in the film, and after we start having fun. We choose the leather, we choose all the finishes, and after the main thing is to do the aging. That is, for example, Bidder the Bard, the book that has been with Dumbledore's family for years and years. We needed to make sure that you, the audience, believes that that book has been with that family for over, 200 years or something. So we needed to age. So aging means kind of destroying the book a bit, kind of going sand and painting and
with thought.
Yes.
So what you're doing is you're sort of fast tracking time through the way that it's finished. So if you go now to an old bookshop or a library and you see how a book is aged, where and why. For us, the why is really, really important in everything we create. Why the typeface, why the kind of aging, why the personality of a prop. So that as an audience, you don't have to spend too long thinking about it. You just believe that it is that world.
That's why going to the charity shops and find those old books also helped us to see how books were held and see how the oil of your hands and how damages the leather. So everything has to be really properly think through. Yeah.
So you've put a lot of work and a lot of detail into making these 3 beautiful books, and you've also put a lot of work and detail into making graphic elements for the films. But these books don't look like the films. You had to kind of reinvent this whole universe. How did you go about doing this?
Well, they could not look like the films because they're not a Warner Brothers production. It's a completely new project. So to begin with, there was that. And then the other thing that we had to confront, which was completely new for us, was in the films we have a very niche role, which is just to think about that top layer of detail through the props. But of course, when you're designing a book, you suddenly are becoming a costume designer, a head of photography, lighting designer, scenic designer, the casting. You have to decide who the people are, what they're going to look like.
How they look like. Yeah.
So the responsibility becomes much broader, and at the same time, the challenge is that you have to get it in a space like that. Mm-hmm. So it's a kind of contradiction of everything we've experienced before.
Out of these different roles, which was the most fun and which was the most difficult role?
For the books, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think, I don't know if you say it in German, but like the mise en scène, the sort of thinking about how to describe a scene in its totality, whether it's through for example, that is, how do we communicate the drama of the moment to the audience? And for us, even the prop making and for us, everything centers from feeling rather than thinking. There's no logic about what a prop should look like, what the Marauder's map should look like. There's no logic behind how the Daily Prophet should appear. It's about bringing to life that magic that she's described in sometimes in not much detail, but it's about the emotion more than about the sort of thinking.
Well, one thing that's different in the films is because we had a little bit more freedom to kind of make things a little bit different, because it needs to work for the camera and for the screen. So as Mira said, the Marauder's map and the description in the book is just a square piece of parchment, but for the film would not work like that. So we had to elaborate to make a little bit more complex and a bit more magical. But for the books, we need to be loyal to the words. So we had to really do exactly how she describes everything.
I will just translate the French word you used in your mise en scène. Also mise en scène ist die Inszenierung der einzelnen Bilder und Doppelseiten. So I don't know if you've seen these beautiful books, but they're so full of details and so full of little nice ideas and opulent pages and little things that are almost hidden between the pages. It's almost unimaginable that two people can do this on their own.
Damn. We could have taken all the credit, but no, you're absolutely right. Yes. We have an amazing team. One of our we didn't have a big plan for Studio MinaLima when we started when we finished the films in 2010. We founded our Studio MinaLima. But one thing we knew we wanted to do was broaden our creative opportunities. So we didn't know that it was going to end up in publishing or in working for theme parks, but we did know that one way you needed to do that was to build a team of the best talent there. And we started with one assistant in 2010, and now we have about 20 designers, not all working on the same project, but there might be sort of between 4 and 6 people working on a book at any one time, whether it's the classics or the Harry Potter books. But everything is led by us because we're control freaks. Disclaimer. So we always want to be involved in everything, but the reason you see MinaLima credited on the cover is because it is the expression of our studio as a team, and they are fantastic, and we're very grateful to have such talent.
And the good thing is that 98% of the team, they are all Harry Potter huge fans. Usually we go downstairs on the design floor, and they are listening to the Harry Potter books all the time. It's on the loop. It's fantastic.
But not your friend from before, unfortunately, it's Stephen Fry. But maybe we can get him to come.
And the good thing is, well, because of course me and Mira, I'm sorry, we get a little bit old and we get a bit forgetful, so to have all those amazing people that they can remember everything. Even in the films, sometimes we will get confused with which film we did that, and they straight away, that number 3, blah, 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 so they know everything, so it's fantastic.
Doesn't anyone else get confused between all those 7?
I don't think they do.
No.
Wer ist ab und zu verwirrt, was bei Harry Potter in welchem Band wo vorkommt? No one. We're the only ones. So you decided to do this amazing book and publishing project, and probably you reread Harry Potter. What was your impression after 20 years of reading this again? How did you?
Well, I think it was, of course, when we're doing the films, we have the script version, which is kind of a shorter version of the books, as you know. But what's been so brilliant, and I think probably why everybody's still here, is that there's the way that it's written allows your imagination to build its own visuals, its own emotions, its own dramas and solutions, and that never goes away if the writing is good. So for us to revisit the books, but with a different creative brief, really, completely different, from the publisher, was the impetus to create was still there.
Yes.
You know, and actually that's the same for if we're working on a project for the theme parks, or if we're working for packaging, or for any sort of Wizarding World project. Some people do ask us, which is kind of a weird question, do you ever get bored with working in the same kind of field? And it's like, no, because there's always a different way to shape those fundamental pieces of story that were established in the books. So my point is, if the story is good, there's always something you can do with it.
So every time we start a new book, the entire team that is going to work in that book, they read the book. But one thing that I like to do is I like to edit, to do the book map. Basically, is to decide where all the illustrations will go and which parts are going to be illustrated. And that is a really hard task, because you wanted to illustrate the entire book, basically. And you can't do that, because otherwise the book would be that. And after becomes a very lovely discussion with the publishers, which ones we should do and which ones we should cut. And also, and the team as well, like, oh no, we have to illustrate this, we have to illustrate that. And it's a lovely fight at the beginning to choose everything that needs to be illustrated. So it's fun, but it takes a little bit of time, because we want to illustrate everything. But one thing that we put focus as well was on things that we didn't see in the films. So scenes that were not in the film. So we make sure that we kind of try to put as many as we can.
Okay. Before we open this up to you, because you should also be able to ask some questions, let's get a little bit philosophical. Because as I was reading these books, your editions, your beautiful, illustrated, wonderful editions, I was reading them to my daughter, and for her it was just very clear that Harry Potter books are your books, and she was very shocked when I started with a third book that hadn't been released in Germany. She said, it's wrong, this is not Harry Potter. You know, it's maybe the same story, but it's not a Harry Potter book.
Excellent.
Because, and then you kind of, it's almost like black magic, yeah, you kind of spoil everyone.
It's a cult.
It's a cult, yeah. And I was thinking, okay, maybe this book sensation that Harry Potter was and is maybe the last book sensation of our age, or all ages. People queuing up and waiting for, 12 hours to get a book, not a new iPhone, but a book. And then now maybe something has to change, and maybe this is the answer, that books become more beautiful, more haptic, more a work of art. Because, either books have to become cheaper and easily accessible and everything, or you go the other way and turn them into something really special. And your book really, books are always in competition with Peppa Pig on the iPad and these things, but your book really managed to visually pull my daughter in. Do you think you might be starting something of a new publishing trend, or saving books from vanishing from this planet?
Before we answer that question, I think we need to say thank you to Peter Pan, to Alice, and to Dorothy, because of the classic books, the Harry Potter people invite us, we want the same treatment we are doing for those beautiful classic stories to Harry Potter. So we kind of did exactly what we have been doing for 9 books now on the classics to Harry Potter. So that was really nice to know that Scholastic, now the lead publisher, kind of like, oh, that is something cool happening here. Can you do the same for Harry Potter? But the other question?
No, I agree. I think there's a place for the tactile relationship that we want, almost as a reaction as well to the overload of digital. And we never really had that as a sort of philosophical or commercial plan. It was more that it was an expression of how we creatively think, you know, in terms of what we've done for film, how we can bring that to publishing. And then it turns out that actually the audience are responding really well. So the more, for us, we work in a communication business, you know, if you want to call it that. So every time we do anything, if it's for film or publishing, it's about the conversation with you as a public, because our work is nothing without that.
Yes.
And like your daughter with you. So we're always responding to, you know, we're checking in all the time to see how those responses, and it's great to hear those things. And I think there is a place still for that tactile magic that you have. And we've heard lots of interesting versions of that story, where something has kind of changed in people's expectations. We want people to be surprised, and in our work, whatever it is, whether it's the actual design or whether it's the physical experience of what they're doing. And as I said before, if you can drive that from the emotion rather than the kind of logic brain, then that's the best way, and that's what storytelling is part of too.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll keep doing that.
No, and it's in the wizard world and Harry Potter's world, technical things don't work. They don't even have telephones. Everything is analog, everything is haptic, so you're kind of creating a magic world in the Muggle world. Okay, nun zu Ihren und euren Fragen. Wer sich traut, kann auf Englisch fragen. Wenn nicht, gerne auf Deutsch, und ich übersetze dann. Willst du vielleicht beginnen? Warte, ein Mikrofon kommt angeflogen, appariert gerade in deine Richtung. Genau.
So my question is, like with all the pictures, for example, in the Harry Potter books, you can see how much detail there is in those pictures, and like how many thoughts and how much work went into all of them. And like, how did you and your team come up with all those great ideas? Like, when I first started books, my first two thoughts on my mind were like, wow, how did I do it? And the second was, I really want to get them. Like, I wish they would be my Christmas presents. And how did you come up with all those great ideas?
I guess what we were saying before, you know, if the story is really solid and strong, and also doesn't give too much away, you know, if it's giving you just the kind of bones. I know you all feel that those books are very detailed, but I challenge you, if you go into some specifics, she doesn't give too much away. She might just say like, oh, Hermione gets a big red book off the, you know, I mean, it doesn't mean it's bad writing, it means that it's giving you space to use your imagination, and there's nothing stronger than that. You know, your imagination and yours is the most powerful thing, and not even ours. We're all giving you an opportunity to do that. So we were trying to interpret all of those moments in a dramatic way. But and the funny thing is, actually, to your point, in our studio with the team, obviously there's a lot of backwards and forwards. Does this work? Is the composition right? Is the character? But we have this kind of funny thing in the studio. If you can hear or smell a drawing, like that one, as a team, then we're like, okay, now we've achieved what we wanted to, and the other's okay, but that's like the extra, the bonus if you can hear it.
But also it's because, as I said before, the entire team in MinaLima, they are all love Harry Potter, so there's no way that we could do with less detail. And I think that was our problem, because the books take so long to be done. It takes, like the last one took 18 months or 18 months to finish, because we can't stop. We just wanted to add more and more and more and more and more. But one moment it needs to go, it needs to be printed now. But yes, it's because there's so much love and care for Harry Potter that we do the way we do.
So, ja, bitte.
Well, thank you so much for beautiful work. My question is, now that you've done all the book work, if you revisit the movies, or if you watch them again, are there any details now which you think I well, not regretting, but you would have done different because you got a different spin now that you read the books? Oh, I think it's something.
Don't ask designers that question. Because the truth is that they want to do everything again, but we're not going to say that because it's disloyal to our work and also to you, because I think people build a kind of, we see the props in the film like characters. Like for us, the Marauder's Map is kind of one of the characters. So if I said maybe I wanted to do it a bit different, I feel like I'm betraying the. So I think we probably, there's some things from early days that also because we were, when, you know, that was 20 years ago, so we've grown a lot as designers, like anyone in their career.
And there was no computers properly back in 2000, Photoshop and things like that. So
yeah, no internet.
No internet, yeah.
Maybe I don't remember. But anyway, it was. So yes, I think it was more that, like, if I knew how much we could work with typography in a different way early on, but you're building all the time on things. So.
Any very small example?
Oh my God, he's really.
I got in trouble once. And everyone was silent, and everyone after came to me and said, "How dare you say that?" So I can't say anything. So we love everything.
It was that tiny thing in the corner that was in the second film that,
Übrigens, die Marauders Map, das ist die Karte des Rumtreibers, weil dieser Begriff gerade gefallen ist. Gut, ist noch jemand da? Hier vielleicht?
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for your work. So, of all the props and books you've designed, which one is your favorite?
Oh.
Again, we're going to get, the other props are going to get really annoyed now.
No, I think on the films, I love working on Daily Prophet. I used to call myself the chief editor of the Daily Prophet. Why not? You know, I was there in charge of that. And I love doing the newspapers. And going back to the Wizard Awards in Fantastic Beasts was also fantastic because I could create the New York newspaper, the French edition, and also the German one. That unfortunately we didn't see in the film, but was there on dressing the train. And yes, I love that. I love doing the Daily Prophets for the films.
And actually, that's an important thing. Sideline is that as graphic designers for film, you have to copyright as well, and typically designers aren't really writers, and they are often bad at spelling as well. So I think
really bad, actually.
But the expectation on that team, on any film, is to come up with copy for newspapers, magazines, shop names, product names, anything where there is text, basically. So it was quite challenging to get all the newspapers filled with stories that were perhaps relevant to the world. We didn't feel it was appropriate to just put Latin or something. So.
Well, also the Daily Prophet had a very important role in the films because it really punctuates the story. So that moment that you need to know that something really bad is happening, the Daily Prophet comes and helps you to get to that point in the story. But also the Marauder's Map.
I think with the Marauder's Map, and that's perhaps a good example to talk about how. For us as designers for film props, unlike perhaps in publishing, our job is to tell the story of the person or the situation or the institution, not as an expression of Mira and Eduardo as designers. So if we're thinking about the Marauder's Map, it has to be the creation of these four characters who were the Marauders, and so if we understand who they are, what their motivation is, what their personality is, then we need to express that in the thing, not just create something that's kind of fun and cool for us. Same with Snape's handwriting, or when he's writing his notes, we have to imagine how would he think, what person is he, because I need to put that on the page, not just do nice calligraphy. So you're we kind of joke and say that we're like sort of method graphic designers because you're having to channel sometimes, especially in a world like Harry Potter, you're having to really think about who is the character, how can I describe that their object or the institution, whether it's like the Ministry of Magic. How can we communicate that to the audience in a way that is believable, that it's them, not us?
But some days were quite confusing and fun at the same time, because we were working. Usually you are not only doing one prop for the film, you are working maybe 3 or 4, 5 things at the same time. And sometimes we have, I'm Dumbledore today, am I going to go, I'm Umbridge, I'm Rita Skeeter, so it was really cool. Because as Mira said, you always have to think how the characters would do those props.
Yeah. And then Marauders Map, Google stole the concept, and we did it only much worse. I should have asked you for the design. Okay. Hier vielleicht?
Hello. So I just started studying production design, and my colleagues and I, we are huge fans of your work. And I just wanted to ask if you may have like some piece of advice to, like, when you're starting in the industry, especially with prop making, that you can give us for our way.
So, congratulations, a great world to go into, and you have a big responsibility now to tell the stories visually. But what a joy. And there's so many different ways of doing it. We always make sure that whatever project that you've seen on the screens there starts with really thorough research. And sometimes it's not directly connected to the finished thing. So just because you're having to design an interesting pattern for a wallpaper, you might go and look at an architectural reference or a roof design or something, some ironwork, and bring those things in. But I think that's the best bit of the job, is actually thinking about how to bring those visual references from, whether it's a specific era that you have to tell, or whether it's just to help you find a way in to a solution. And I think what Eduardo said earlier about the prop making, about aging, perfect example, is how to, to be observing all the time how things age and why. The why is critical, I think, in production design. Don't ever do anything just for the sake of it. You'll get caught out. There needs to be a reason behind everything. And there is, if you look for it, there will be.
So. Vielleicht auch jemand hinten? Nein, die Fragen? Doch, da ist jemand hinten. Genau.
Hi, I was wondering, like, with everything being so complex, when in like the process of filmmaking do you get involved, like, with all the planning and designing, because everything is so extremely complex?
Usually we start working in the film like maybe 6 months before of filming, and in a big production like Harry Potter, like in a small production, you would start maybe 4 weeks before. But in Harry Potter was fantastic because we have the time, and we had a very nice budget to work on Harry Potter, so we could go really crazy and really enlarge the world from the books. But usually we start with the script as well. We read the script, and after we started doing several lists, we usually divide in 2 columns. One is the action prop, the hero prop, all the props that the actors will interact with, like the Daily Prophet, the Marauders Map, all the books and the letter, Chocolate Frog, and so on. And also there's an enormous list, much bigger than the hero props, that are the background dressing. That is everything that you need to do for the set. So for example, if I'm Flourish and Blots, the bookshop, every single book that you see there, we have to do it. We have to think about the spine, at least the spines, because you only see the spines, but everything has to be thought through. Like when we go to Honeydew, to Diagon Alley as well, every single shop, we have to think about the signage, the window dressing. So it's like an enormous task, but you have to be so organized from day one. And there's the schedule as well, because you might be doing the scenes are not filmed in order, so you might be doing the last scene on the film on the day 1 of shooting, so you need to have that prop ready for the day 1. So it's quite confused, so you need to be very organized.
But don't forget that filmmaking is all about cheating. So
exactly.
Every single department, that's a very busy one, every single department is doing everything they can to show as much as they can in the most efficient way possible, whether it's a book that has fake pages inside, whether it's a very complex construction that when you go around the back it's just tubes and some wood.
Don't tell them.
We cannot mimic the real world.
It's an illusionist business.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
And but making a book is quite the opposite, isn't it? There's no way to cheat around a page.
Well, we tried at the beginning when we were inexperienced, going back to doing how you would do things again later, is we would sometimes buy, if you had to have 10 books, we would go and buy them from a bookshop, and maybe an old, a non-published book, and just put in a new cover and some pages that we were the middle 6 pages are the ones that, and then of course the director says, oh no, I want to open it here at the back.
Yeah.
So then we went on to doing them properly.
Talking about
the real world
films now, but the books.
Oh, those ones.
These ones. I mean, there's no way you can cheat your way out of.
No, that was a harsh shock for us. We were like, yeah, we got this. We know how to make books, and then it was like,
But it's a big secret that the book industry is a very honest business, whereas film and theater industry is always glamorous on the outside.
Yes.
And,
smoke and mirrors. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Vielleicht noch 3 Fragen hier vorne.
I would like to know how tight the work with J.K. Rowling was for the films, and if you had to ask her for every design you made.
So she wasn't that involved, because once she handed over to the filmmakers, it was agreed that it was going to be their project, and she was really good at just kind of staying at a distance, I think, and they would bring her in maybe to check some key things like casting and maybe some bigger sets and so on. And for us, we did have to ask her a couple of times for help on story, on back, because we mentioned before that our job is to always tell the backstory visually in a very quick moment, and so you sometimes need to know what actual facts are. So I remember for the Black family tapestry, that had to be created. The whole thing had to be the family tree, the genealogical tree had to be described visually. But we only had maybe 6 characters in the story that we knew who they were related to, Sirius Black and so on. So we had to ask her, who else is in this family? And it was great. She came immediately with all the other relatives, and then anyone else is our friends and family, which happens a lot in film.
I have my name as well on the tapestry, but I'm burnt.
You're burnt out. Yeah.
Like Sirius, yes.
So we only had to consult her if we needed, and then occasionally I remember she came, if she was doing a visit to the studios, she would always come to the graphics studio, and we were quite proud that I think for her it was very easy to see her work come to life, because it's all physical work, seeing the Daily Prophet on the walls. She was quite wowed by it. That was great.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you draw characters for your book, is it difficult for you to avoid similarities to the actors, or do you wish to have similarities to the actors of the films?
I think, as I said before, I think we were looking very carefully about the description that was written in the book, so we were trying to match as much as possible. But sometimes it was hard. It's not really.
I think it's only if, obviously some of the things in the film are there because they were described in the text, and so we did the same. If there's red hair or a long cloak or characteristics, but we tried not to. And I guess there might be some similarities because they're in the text.
Yes, but for example, in this new book now, Harry Potter 3, we introduced Trelawney, and it was really, because Emma Thompson did an amazing job, and the characterization of her in the film was amazing.
trying to unthink those things.
Yeah.
You know.
And come up with a new amazing trilogy.
Gut. Vielleicht eine letzte Frage?
I just come from New York, and 2 days ago I saw the Broadway show, and I wonder, in the beginning, if you had conflicts with the theater appearance compared to the film, because it's different, but it is both, as you said, live. It gets so much life, and I was very astonished. Some jazz friends said you should not go there, but I went there, and it's just amazing, the tricks, the technique. Of course, this is very new, but I would very much like how much your influence was on that show.
We were not involved in the show, and I think that theatre makers, I think they wanted, because it was quite some years after the films were released or finished, and before we started the books actually, I think they wanted creatively to have a new impact and a new direction. So I don't think there was anyone involved from the filmmaking it was a new team, a new vision, and I understand that, because creatively, you wanted to have a new interpretation, just like we did with the books. So no, we were not involved at all in the theatre production.
You used quite some of your ideas.
So, Miraphora, something you said a couple of minutes ago kept me thinking, because you said we designers are usually bad at writing and bad at spelling, and you've been working with so many books and other projects that were not originally yours, like you did Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan and Harry Potter. Do you have in mind of maybe some point in the future creating your very own story and your very own universe?
Good question. $1 million question. It's a very good question, because that's exactly where we need to go now. I feel like we've been in so many other people's minds, in all these other authors, and we've had this partnership with all these brilliant writers, but I was joking the other day saying that we've sort of been, traveling through these forests of stories, and it's kind of like we've come out of the clearing on a cliff edge, and we're like, okay, now there's no more forest. We need to. It's like Thelma and Louise. We need to jump. So we're going to do that. We're going to now develop our own stories, which will be obviously the story, the writing, and heavily illustrated, and perhaps not even just stay on the page. Maybe we need to think about how we can expand the media in which we express our work, because when we worked in film, we didn't know we were going to end up in books. So now we're in books. Maybe we need to think about other ways, other media. So,
well, the word is always the beginning.
So hopefully next year we can, I don't know, announce something here.
Yeah, I hope Carlsen Verlag is listening. So, we can expect something big coming from MinaLima, but in the meantime, we'll have plenty of pages to gaze upon and wonder, and plenty of Easter eggs to discover. We didn't spoil anything here today, hopefully. And keep your eyes open for new things to come. And I was really amazed by these books, because I thought this is opening a new way of experiencing this medium, these books, and it kind of fills you with joy to see that so many of you are here, so many are coming to a book fair, and so many are excited about a book that's more than 20 years old, and that comes out with the same words but a different vibe and a different feeling. So it kind of gives hope that not everything is lost to the screens. Big round of applause for MinaLima from London.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vielen Dank euch auch.
Thank you.